Hey, well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the T&T Podcast. Here with your boy Torres Finney and my co-host Tyler Layfield. What's up, Tyler?
Man, nothing much. Another day, and we were able to bring the crew back in. Jackson and Kobe, how y'all doing?
Doing good, brother. How's everybody doing?
Doing wonderful. You know, it's kind of sucks. College football's winding down, but we're NFL playoffs. But everything's going good.
Yeah.
Hey, football
suck,
season almost over. Time to go shoot some layups.
Yeah.
Todd Hooves back to the Final Four is going to happen. We're at basketball school now.
Good. How's Georgia Tech's basketball going, Jackson?
Not good. I mean, they were down 50-17 to SMU at one point yesterday. So,
At least y'all weren't the only team that was down 50-17. Because actually, the SMU women basketball, they were up. Well, no, it was Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh women were down 49-17. But they came back and they mounted the largest comeback in women college basketball history.
Oh, wow.
They went on a 54-10 run. They won 72-59 today.
That's
crazy. That's why you come to the T&T podcast. You can find out stuff like that I had no clue about. There you go. Jackson, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, on that note, Georgia Tech women's team is pretty good. They did lose to Louisville today, but they're 15-2. So it's a lot better than the men's program. Men's program is
very nice.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen Georgia's actually doing pretty good. They beat Kentucky and Oklahoma recently, that's good on them. 2 ranked teams. So yeah, man. Hey, well, let's go ahead. Let's get into let's recap before we get into picks for college football playoff championship. I know Torres and I went on record last week and we talked about who we saw going to the championship. Of course, we agreed Ohio State was going to come out of their end. But where we differed was I chose Penn State, he chose Notre Dame. And Torres, you were right. So Torres got that one. Who did you guys, Jackson, we'll start with you. Who did you see coming out of that? Did you have Notre Dame or did you have Penn State?
I had Penn State. You know me.
I should have figured. I should have known. I should have known before asking you.
And I called Kobe into taking Penn State too. So yeah.
Oh man, Kobe, you should have trusted Marcus.
I should have stuck to my guns, man. It's just James Franklin is who we all think he is. He just can't.
He is who we thought he was.
Yeah.
Well.
I just don't think he can get it done. Marcus Freeman, on the other hand, I think he had lesser talent on the roster. I don't think he had as explosive of an offense, especially with their running back being kind of hindered 80% during the game. But their
lost one of their tackles.
Their best defensive lineman's gone. Like Notre Dame is a gritty, hard-nosed, very tough defense, and they play man a lot of the time. Their offense, Riley Leonard, looks calm every single time I watch him play. They're just a good football team, but either way, Ohio State is Ohio State.
Yeah.
Well. See, this is the thing that I have a little bit of a. I understand, like we talk about James Franklin, which is true. He can't get it done. What is he? 1-15. He's 1-15 against the top 5 or something. But
he has a weird record against ranked teams, like 4-17 or something.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's awful. But that game, I'm not gonna put too much blame on him necessarily. Allar, I mean, look, not a single wide receiver caught a football for your team. They was out there having cardio.
Yeah.
Heck, you about to do freaking track. You had them boys just out there running. That makes no sense to me. How is Penn State one of the top-ranked teams in the country? None of their wide receivers get a single catch. This is absurd. And then Allar had a chance to go down the field, take the lead, kick a game-winning field goal. He throws a pick on that final drive, which put Notre Dame into that territory. There was multiple times throughout that game where Penn State probably could have ran away or took it away from Notre Dame. But like Kobe said, Notre Dame was a really, really gritty team, and that's what I've seen all year from these boys. I mean, I watched a good bit of Notre Dame, and I am here on record, and I've told this a lot of times to Tyler. I'll be like, man, Notre Dame's a good football team. Man, Notre Dame looked really good to me. And I understand there's a lot of people that was optimistic about it. They were like, well, yeah, I've heard about this Notre Dame. Notre Dame will pass, and I'm like, I didn't get that same vibe from this Notre Dame team, and I don't like. Yeah. I'm not the biggest Notre Dame guy. I really don't care for them boys at all. But from this year, I've seen a lot something different. They are much grittier. They're much more physical. They run the ball pretty well. The defense is lights out. So I
play smart,
I
play discipline.
Yeah, I agree. I think how far they've made it this year is definitely rightfully so.
Yeah. It's them going against Ohio State. It opened up as Ohio State as a 9.5 point favorite. It's been bet down to 8.5. So I mean, we can go ahead and make our picks. I mean, just to put my 2 cents on that Penn State Notre Dame game, the first half, I was pretty sold going into halftime that Penn State was wearing down Notre Dame. They had these like long sustaining drives. They were able to run the ball, convert on on third downs, and just rack up first downs to go down the field. And I thought it was going to wear them down. And congrats to Notre Dame. They were able to push through it and find a way to win the ball game like they've been doing. So good on them. But Ohio State, Notre Dame. I guess we need to talk about Ohio State and their game against Texas. Jackson, what were some of the takeaways you came from, or you left that game, kind of thinking about?
Well, I mean, they had to get out that win, and just my point on I'll say something about Notre Dame real quick. Just what makes them more impressive is maybe I can't think of another team that's been as injured as they have this year. What they've been able to pull off with all that they've had. I mean, they've had multiple offensive linemen go down, their best defensive linemen go down, their best corner go down, and that's a big concern I have going into the Ohio State game, but nobody's been able to make it pay for it. Like Louisville didn't do it early in the season. USC didn't do it. Georgia Tech couldn't do it. And then any of these playoff games, they couldn't do it. So just hats off to them. And also that may have been like the worst matchup of receivers in a semifinal playoff game because
probably
receivers are bad too. Like they're not maybe at Penn State level bad, but like neither of these teams have receivers who I think would even get sniffed for getting drafted just on that. But I mean,
and Georgia fans thought they had it bad.
Yeah, and I'll take Georgia's receivers 10 times over either Notre Dame or Penn State's receivers. But I mean, to me, it was just Ohio State's defense. Like, I mean,
that's a bold statement.
I don't know that it's that bold.
It's a bold. Georgia's receivers. I'm talking dropping third down screens to your chest. I wouldn't say that. I mean, Penn State had 5 stars on their roster at receiver. Do you remember Julian Fleming? I mean, granted, he's not what we thought he was, but Penn State had some talent in the wide receiver room. You know what I mean?
They just didn't use them.
And but you had the tight end in football.
Well, I
do like Warren.
I'm not sold on LR. I don't know how LR is one of these top drafted
He flashes. He flashes at times and then disappears at others.
He's never flashed to me. I talked to Jackson about this. I've never seen him take over a game. Like if we're talking NFL draft, I've seen Jalen Murrow take over a football game and win. I've seen Jackson Dart take over a football game and win.
So you didn't like any of the throws against Boise State? I thought he kind of put it in the breadbasket on a couple of them.
He did look
in tight coverage. But it's Boise State. I mean, it's the same rule we play with James Franklin. When they go up against a ranked team, against somebody they need to have a big win against.
I guess I can see where you're coming from.
He's just a bystander. He doesn't really show
He makes good plays against the teams he's supposed to, is what you're saying, and then doesn't really do it against the
That's my other problem, y'all. We can't be picking and choosing ranked teams because Boise State was ranked, and so was freaking Indiana.
No,
we can't do that.
I'm talking about eye test. When they play a team that is when they play a team that is on par with them with talent,
doesn't get it done. There goes Kobe for a second. So yeah, I get where he was going with it though. He's saying they wouldn't get it done, right, Kobe? Oh yeah, he's coming back in. Here he goes.
Well, with him, I think with Aller, however he says his last name, it's like the Josh Allen debate we had all those years ago, where Josh Allen come out of college completing like 52% of his passes, had a ton of interceptions, but he could throw the ball like 90 yards, and he just had unreal athleticism. And you're like, well, I hope it works out. He doesn't have the athleticism that Josh Allen has, but his NFL stuff is just purely hypothetical. Like it's nothing you've seen up to this point.
Like Drew Alar's ceiling is Daniel Jones, and his floor is Will Levis. Like that's where I see him.
What a great combo.
That's where I see him at this point.
Gets me weak in the knees, right there.
Oh, no.
Good gracious. But Jackson, going back to you, the Texas, game, Texas Ohio State. What did you take away there?
I mean, to me, it was just the defense for Ohio State. It just continually, again and again, like it's been the most consistent unit, for Ohio State pretty much all year. I mean, I know the offense has been really explosive, but you have had games where Will Howard has turned the ball over, has taken sacks, or where, their offensive line has struggled at various times this year. And that was the first time they had struggled since the Michigan game, because one of the biggest concerns I had coming into the whole playoff was, Michigan just shoved them around. And it's not like, Tennessee and Oregon got some dudes up front, but they were able to really, not have a problem with it at all. Mm-hmm. The way they were able to overcome, they had that little stretch in the second, third quarter where they were not blocking very well, and Will Howard was not playing very well. And, Texas was sending like 3 guys to Jeremiah Smith every play, like just anybody else. And like Carnell Tate had a really good game, but just kind of their resilience to overcome that. Their defense has been really good the whole playoff. I know
Luka too.
Yeah, he had a great first drive there as well, but they just have so many guys everywhere. Like even when, you're stopping them a bit on offense, it's just they just have so many weapons. And I'm fascinated to see how Notre Dame tries to handle them, because Notre Dame's defense is going to have to win them this game.
They definitely going to have their hands full. I definitely agree with that. And plus, you got to remember, I don't care what nobody say, but I felt like Ohio State definitely could have blew that game open even more. A lot of penalties held them boys back. Every time they would make a big play, they get behind the sticks with a holding call or some type of unsportsmanlike conduct or just something stupid. And that hurt them a lot. I don't think they're going to obviously do that type of stuff in the national championship against a team like Notre Dame, but to go against a team like Texas and to be able to grit that win out, especially the way the game was going, a lot of big plays. Eventually, we can go down to the final play, the final drive for Texas. You had that big catch. Then the guy got flagged for taunting or something. I forgot. That moved him back. What was it?
I said it was soft. It was an unsportsmanlike after the play, but he was doing a regular first down celebration.
First down, yeah. I definitely thought it was soft.
What were they trying to say it was? Him like shooting or something?
Taunting or something like that.
Taunting or something. I remember that, yeah. But they got to the 1-yard line, and obviously, first and goal at the 1. At one of the first plays you do, second goal at one, whatever it was. One of the first plays you do is a shotgun play. Toss
run, dude.
Toss run. And they go, now it's 2nd and 9 from the goal. And then now your playbook has to open up even more. It was too simple. And I think Texas shot themselves in the foot into tying that game. And you can blame on a lot of things, but great job by Ohio State, capitalizing, getting that turnover, sack, going back for a touchdown. But I think Texas definitely shot themselves in the foot at the end of that game.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was a pretty awesome play. It just ended up right in his hands. He took it back to end it. So moving forward into this game, Ohio State and Notre Dame, Jackson mentioned Notre Dame's defense is going to be how they're going to have to, stay in this game. I feel like it'd be pretty point blank to say it's going to be, Ohio State's offense. I guess you could say that's going to win them this game. I guess is what you could say. You can say a couple other things, but how do you see this one playing out, Kobe?
On paper, Notre Dame, again, I don't think they match up well offensively against Ohio State's defense. Ohio State's defense proved a lot to me. They dug deep. They got themselves a win. They created the necessary turnovers. They created the necessary missed third downs against Texas. And Texas had elite skill players. They had an elite wide receiver room. They had explosive playmakers. I don't think Notre Dame has that. If their running back is Jeremiah Love, if he's healthy, that's their most explosive guy, but that's about it. Jackson alluded to it earlier. They don't have an explosive wide receiver room whatsoever. Notre Dame plays man coverage 80% of the time. That is, they have the highest man coverage rate in college football. and rightfully so. Their defense is very, very physical. You're not going to play one-on-one man coverage against Ohio State. It's just not going to work. They have too many explosive guys. Cardinal Tay, Jeremiah Smith, of course. G. Scott, their tight end, I feel like a very underrated guy in their offense. And then, of course, you got the dynamic duo at running back. I think Ohio State, I mean, their biggest test in this playoff was Texas, and they just won that I wouldn't say comfortably, but they won it convincingly.
Didn't even have to use Smith, really.
Yeah, you didn't even have to use your best player. And I think Texas' defense drew it up really, really well. You took their best player out of the game, and that's what you're supposed to do. I think offense failed them. I think Quinn Ewers failed them. I think Texas' defense was exactly what I thought they was, and I thought they played very, very well 80% of the game. But Ohio State against Notre Dame is going to be different because, again, it's not going to be a shootout. Notre Dame cannot do that. Notre Dame is going to have to dig into the Michigan blueprint. They're going to have to dig into how Michigan beat Ohio State. It would have to be a very low-scoring affair for Notre Dame to win. But if I'm putting my money on it, I mean, give me Ohio State. Give me Ryan Day. I think he gets his first of a couple big ones, I'm willing to say. I think they end up pulling it off very, very comfortably.
Yeah, I was about to say, do y'all think this gets to a point where you think it could be a blowout like that? I mean, I'm not going to say to the TCU extent, but but a blowout just in general of three. Let's just say 3 scores or more. Could y'all actually, like, if you had to put a percentage on that at that happening, what would you put your percentage at, Jackson?
Do y'all remember 2020
95
national do y'all remember 2020 national championship with Alabama and Ohio State and just Devontae Smith having 3 touchdowns in the first half?
Yeah.
You think that's what Jeremiah Smith's about to do?
That's the type of game I see from Jeremiah Smith. I really do. I'm so serious.
Yeah.
Like
because they're not going to be able to triple him.
Yeah, it could be a 42-21 type game. Like, I think Ohio State would put up a very comfortable amount of points.
Yeah. So, Jackson, you said 95%. Elaborate on that.
I just, like, what's the maximum amount of points without special teams or defense? Like, what's the maximum amount of points Notre Dame's offense is scoring in this game? Like, I thought I have it at like 17 maybe.
Yeah, about 14.
21 at the most.
Very much. And it's, again, like you said with the Michigan plan, like that's exactly what they're going to have to do. And like that was what, a 14-13 game or something?
Yeah.
13-10.
13-10. So like that's the kind of game plan you got to do.
Given they actually have a quarterback now, so I mean, let's keep that in mind. They actually have a decent quarterback compared to what Michigan had.
He's a lot better than anything Michigan has. But Riley Leonard is also inconsistent throwing the ball. Like, I mean, he was not great against Georgia. He came on in the second half against Notre Dame, but I don't think he was great there. And it's just again, they just don't have weapons on the outside to threaten Ohio State. And I'm not convinced, as good as Notre Dame's rushing attack is, that they're going to be able to sit there and be one-dimensional against a team like Ohio State. Like, you're going to have to get a bad game from Will Howard. You're really going to have to beat their lineup. And that's, we've seen it happen. It could happen.
Does Riley Leonard's legs pull them through?
No.
That one play they do when it's like 3rd and short, 4th and short, where they just quarterback draw it. I don't know. However they block that, like I always see like a pulling guard. That thing is unstoppable. Just about he easily picks up 3-4 yards every time.
And I'll say this, like if you're a betting person, like I would take the over on his rushing yards prop because in the biggest game.
Well, hold on now. Sacks. If he gets sacked, that does kind of get him in college now.
But I will say, like in the Texas, like you could see it in the Texas A&M game. You knew how easy Notre Dame's schedule was and how they knew it was easy.
Yeah,
he ran him like 20-something times in that game, and then he barely ran it for like 2 lines. So he had to play somebody.
So in that Michigan game against Ohio State, Davis Warren, who played quarterback for Michigan that game, he was 9 of 16 attempts for 62 yards and 2 interceptions. And they still ended up winning that game. They won that ball by giving it to Mullings 32 times for 116 yards and a touchdown. And then using Orgy every blue moon, for 3 carries for 32. I mean,
Notre Dame is capable of playing that brand of football.
They can, but will it work this time? Will it work again, though? Ryan Day's not going to let it happen.
Remember, you had, 2 red zone interceptions from Will Howard in that game?
Yeah.
Well,
not just regular
well,
receptions, but
2
in the red
interceptions from Warren too now in the red zone.
yeah.
Remember, at least one of them was red zone. I think it was Sawyer that caught one of those. He's been playing his behind off too.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna have to be ball control. Like they're gonna have to win the time. I'm not a big time of possession guy as a whole, but like Notre Dame needs to win it. Like,
They have to do it. They
Notre
have
Dame
to.
has to win time of possession. That's their only. That's actually was my only pathway to victory for Notre Dame is by keeping that type of offense off the field. Yes, Notre Dame obviously has the defense to be able to
Easier
get
said than done.
but that is
I will
much
say-
easier said than done. And the only reason why I say this is because Ohio State, if they break out as we saw against Oregon, when they get going, oh my gosh, they get going. Same thing you saw with them against Tennessee. I think Will Howard is having one of those generational playoff runs that you see about like with NFL quarterbacks. If anybody remember, maybe I'm using this comparison, but when Green Bay in 2011, before Green Bay became what they were, before Aaron Rodgers became what he was, that playoff run where it was like, oh my gosh, where was this in the regular season, my guy? Will Howard is doing something similar to that to me through this playoff run. I mean, he is just the throw, like the Texas game, the throws. This guy
Tight
was
windows.
making
Tight windows.
I'm like, man, that would be
Nearly intercepted, like on a couple of those early ones.
Yes. I'm like, what in the world? That is
Yeah.
the transform Will Howard. Like, what is going on? But
Yeah.
he is playing his behind off, and I've said it here on the show before the playoffs started. I said a team because I had my pick was Ohio State versus Georgia. Obviously Georgia didn't make it, but Ohio State. One of the main reasons I was talking about them were Ron Day. Ron Day. This is a win or go home, and I'm not talking about like just go home because of the play. I mean, go home, pack up your stuff, and get out of Ohio State. Go home. Like he had. to
Talking about the season or this game?
No. The season. Throughout this playoff, he had.
Okay. Because I think he's earned it now.
Oh yeah, for sure. His job is
saved.
saved. But losing 4 years in a row to Michigan,
Yeah,
the talent that
it does
he
hurt.
had this year, $20 million roster. There's just no way that he was going to be able to stay with Ohio State for that much longer coming out, especially if he would have lost in the first or maybe even second round. I definitely thought Ron Day had to at least make it to the national championship. And like I said, when you got a guy that's coaching with his back against the wall, when his players are basically playing with their backs against the walls, because Ohio State was like the laughing stock. Yes, they had made the playoffs, but they were like the laughing stock of college football. Yeah. You lose to Michigan, you don't make it to your conference championship. Look at the guys you have on your team. You have one of the best rosters in the entire country. How are you not as much more successful? I understand you one loss to Oregon, but that was it. You should be better than this.
Yeah, not the Michigan though.
Yes, not the Michigan, and
having to get a freaking state law put in place to avoid planting flags. That crap was ridiculous.
Exactly.
Oh man!
But Ohio State has definitely showed up and showed out. I'm really excited to see how they play in the national championship. You got to remember when the 4-team playoff started, Ohio State won the first one, and now with the first ever 12.
I remember that.
I got Ohio State for sure winning this.
You remember, Torres, this is an old Jones County throwback thing here, but that was the first year Kiefer did his pick'em. You know, his bowl pick'em. And you remember who won it all, don't you?
It was you, right?
No, it was Mitchell Lyons, the Ohio State fan, the only guy that would pick Ohio State to win it all.
That's right.
That
they were the 4th seed because they had to play Alabama in the first round.
Yeah.
And I was surprised.
And they were on their third quarterback. Everybody, the whole narrative was being made. Yep. The whole narrative. That was crazy. So looking at this game, I got one more question to pose to each of you. So I know, Kobe, you represent Bama here. Georgia is by Torres, and a little half of or sliver of Jackson in a way. He can't publicly come out and say nothing about that, right?
Jackson's back hurts from carrying the weight of representing the ACC. Let's be real.
Yes, he is. He's representing them. He's got Georgia Tech.
I have to carry the water.
There was some USC. I know he's always kind of had a little USC. I know his dad likes Miami in here. So, who is more dangerous with a college after winning this in recruiting? I mean, I feel like it's obvious here, right? Ohio State, correct? So, if you're having to pick from like an opposing team, you'd probably rather have Notre Dame win, correct? Are we all on the same wavelength that way as far as recruiting goes?
All right, what are you asking?
So who's more dangerous in recruiting? It's the answer is definitely Ohio State. So are you going to use that as something to root against Ohio State in a way?
I can't root against Ohio State. I want Ryan Day to get his natty. Like I
Okay.
need him to get, because here's the thing. Like, yes, Kirby Smart is still the best coach in the country. Some would say it's Kalen DeBoer, but
Somebody clip
jury's
that.
still out.
Somebody clip that.
Jury's still out.
Please, dude.
Somebody
Oh
clip that.
God.
But we need another competitor. Like during the height of the Saban dynasty,
They're going to be scary if they get
and
that.
during the height of the Saban dynasty, you had a Dabo Swinney. You had a coach across the country or in another state that was on your level a little bit. You know what I mean? I think Ryan Day is that guy for Kirby. I think he's fully capable of being that guy for Kirby. Don't get me wrong. Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning.
I know you love you some Marcus Freeman. I know you do.
I do, and I love Dan Lanning as well. I think
I
he's
like
one
him
of
as well.
I think he's one of the best defensive minds in college football. I
He's
want
getting
Ryan
me
Day
worried
to
every now
get
and then
his
here.
ring. I want Ryan Day to get his ring. I don't think Brian Kelly left such a bad taste in my mouth. I can never pull for Notre Dame. Like, I like Marcus
My
Freeman.
dad
I can't
hated
pull for
Brian
Notre
Kelly.
Dame. So yeah, I can't root against Ohio State. I want them to get it because I want them to be good for college football.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my reason on why. Now I want Ryan Day. I want Ohio State to win because I love the story. Everybody counting them out.
It's a
Let's
fun
praise
little topic
themselves.
here. I like
Yeah,
this. I like
this is
these.
fun. But I'm gonna tell you why that I'm picking Ohio State, and I definitely think they're gonna win. But if I
Well,
had the
picking and
chance to
rooting
root for
for two
Notre
different
Dame,
things here. Yeah, yeah.
it is for sure. If I had a chance, I would not be mad in the slightest if Notre Dame won the national championship.
Yeah, I
Here's
wouldn't
why:
really either.
because of all year long, all I've heard for the longest, and I've been arguing with so many people
I know
all
I was one
over
of them.
between the conferences, the SEC,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Big Ten, the this, the that, and then we get a team that's not even none
Now
of them.
screw that
They're
crap.
independent.
Shut that
They're
crap. If you're going to use
independent.
this as like a
They
thing,
got
little old me,
money.
shut up.
They get
Get
all
your
the
behind
money,
out of here.
and they win the national championship. Do you not know how much chaos that would cause? Because at first we were like, "Oh, this is the best
How?
conference. This is the best conference." No, no, no. Because a lot of people were all look. I've been watching Summer First take a little bit.
Of
Cam
course you
Newton.
have.
Cam Newton himself has said that he don't respect. He said even if Notre Dame won the national championship by beating Ohio State, he still wouldn't respect Notre Dame's pathway to getting towards the national championship. And I said, how is that possible? How could you not respect it?
That's just a
Because
little
of,
hot take thing.
because they didn't play a certain schedule. Because they didn't play these type of teams to get towards that. I feel like that's ludicrous. Because do anybody not remember Clemson in 2018? They had one of the worst strength of schedules in their history of a national champion. And they went on, they blew out Alabama like they didn't deserve to be on the field. So obviously, it's more than what you just play as a schedule. It's still dependent on your team. That's the only reason why I would root for Notre Dame, just to shut up all this conference BS and to show it's more about team play. I said this before. It's not a such thing as so much about conference in this. It's about eras. All right. It was the Nick Saban era more than it was the SEC. And yes, I know people gonna say, "Well, you had Auburn win it, you had LSU win it, you had
LSU
Georgia."
got one in there.
Yes,
Auburn,
but
yeah.
guess what?
Yeah,
No.
Georgia.
Those teams had to step up their play because the number one top dog was there.
So
Similar to how it was.
so it
the
kind of goes
NFL.
into Kobe's thing about having that guy across the, in another area that pushes
Yes,
you. Okay, I
that
get where you're
pushes
going
you.
with it.
Similar to New England, similar to the NFL. Tom Brady was the top dog. Okay, when he didn't win it, it was more than likely another AFC team was going to win it. Either Peyton Manning or Big Ben in Pittsburgh. Then eventually Joe Flacco won one. Like it was always that way. It was always that way. You muted a little bit, Kobe. You muted.
You
A little
muted Kobe.
bit. I know you're
Hey,
saying something.
don't disrespect Eli Manning like that.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a
yeah.
few.
Two
No,
of
there's
them.
a
He got
few.
two of them.
I'm not saying it's not like Clemson got two. I'm not saying it don't happen. Those are
Yeah,
outliers. That's what I'm saying. The SEC, what out of the past 25 years they won 20? Okay, if
yeah.
they won 20,
Yeah.
majority of that was because of Nick Saban. It was not so much of
I'll agree
anybody
with
else.
you. I'll agree
I'm
with you.
telling you. And so
He,
this
yeah,
era
the
is
rising
done.
tide lifts all boats. Right,
I
right.
mean,
That guy. Yeah. Okay.
LSU, Florida, Auburn, Georgia twice. I mean, the rest of the SEC has like done its fair share.
Because of
What
Nick
he's saying is
Saban.
because of that
They had to
Yeah.
that
lift their
standard
play
that
up for
he's
him.
setting.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
Yeah.
I
Nick
get what you're
Saban was
saying.
if Nick Saban was in the Big Ten, majority of the Big Ten would have ran this era. The reason why? Because they would have to rise their play up for him. That's why I feel like you see what happened with Ohio State and Michigan these past
Would
years.
Nick Saban have won championships up there in a Big Ten school? I mean,
we've kind of seen that before. I mean, the Big Ten was kind of, a joke a little bit for a while. I remember they played Florida in like 06. Ohio State beat 41-14. Then LSU beat them like 38-20. And it was kind of like, okay, Ohio State runs to the Big Ten, but they play SEC athletes and they get blown out. Urban Meyer comes in there and it changed.
Changed the game.
They had to come try to catch
okay.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
You kind of do have a little bit of evidence of that.
That's why I said it's
good call.
Good call. That's why I said it's era based, not so much of conference based. Because everybody's like, "Where's that?" Yes, the South has the. In my opinion, I'm from the South. I think the South do have the best athletes. I'm not going to disagree.
We do.
But what I am going to say is, when it comes to playing overall football, these other teams are good. People sleep on, well, it's Penn State or it's Notre Dame and what do they got, blah, blah, blah. Like, people sleep on these teams because they're not from the South. But I understand that these guys have great football. These guys have great football teams. That is a lot of it. Yes, it is.
To me, it's not really all that.
Kind of I get fed up with this SEC stuff, and like I think they're the best conference. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think they're the best conference.
You watch your mouth.
I don't think that they're top to bottom like as good as people like. It's not as good as it was like
top to bottom. No, but the
you can say the same thing about Big Ten.
Yeah, the A and S tier is better
but
than
to me, it's always the benefit of the doubt we give them all the time about, well, they're definitely better because if you played them on a neutral field or the famous hypotheticals, and then we see it play out. We've kind of seen it over the past 3 or 4 years play out a totally different.
And they lose.
Now, past 3 or 4 years, though, you got to take into context, the portal, the NIL, that kind of stuff too.
That's the point. No. That's the point. That's the part where it has evened the field. Because now since the field is even.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, these SEC teams that make it to these non-college football playoff bowl games, outside of, you could say Georgia was a little bit of an outlier last year playing in the Orange Bowl because most of their players decided to play. But a lot of times these kids now, they're going to choose to opt out because. And this is getting into a whole nother rant, but these bowl games don't really mean as much when you're not in the college football playoff.
Well, then it don't mean as much.
SEC teams that had like an advantage because, like, and I'm a big bowl right now. Bowl games, I don't put a lot of stock into them, but like
there have been some pretty good ones though.
Yeah, but I mean, Bama was a 3-touchdown favorite. All of Michigan's NFL players didn't even play, and they won that game.
Exactly. South Carolina.
All I heard about South Carolina,
Illinois was a good one. Yeah,
they were the hottest team in the country, and they
did play a good bit of their starters.
Lose to Illinois. So
to Illinois.
Kobe's raising his hand. Go ahead, young man.
Here's the argument that kind of supersedes all of this, and why. At least I understand Jackson's perspective because we've talked about this in depth a lot. This is why you see the SEC getting the clout that it does. Why the SEC gets the benefit of the doubt. Even if you're talking top to bottom, people say the SEC is better than everywhere else. Here's why. Go look at the NFL numbers. Go look at the NFL All-Pro team. Go look at the NFL Pro Bowl. Go look at who's playing in the playoffs right now, who's elite in the playoffs right now. Because it doesn't matter if it's Georgia or Bama or even LSU. You still got guys from Ole Miss, Arkansas, South Carolina. You have talent all across the SEC at higher levels than anybody else, some conferences combined. That is why, because the level of competition is different, whether it's Vanderbilt or whether it's Ole Miss, whether it's Georgia or whether it's Florida. There's different levels of competition.
It just
in the
means
SEC.
more.
Hold up. But if it just means
the NFL
more,
scouts wouldn't lie to you. They would tell you the SEC has the
He's
best
telling the
football.
truth too. He's telling the truth on that.
If it just means more, then why in the world they don't make it mean as much more in the bowl games? All right. Also,
it's the era, like you said.
That's a case by case analysis. That's team culture.
Well,
we saw that with Florida State. When you hire a group of mercenaries to come in, they're not going to give a crap when the games don't matter.
No, I'm gonna
ask y'all a question.
What
when the last time an SEC player won MVP in NFL?
Name some folks.
I already know the answer. But what's
the answer?
Cam Newton, 2016.
I mean, what does that have to do with it? I mean,
that's one singular, but we're looking at the group as a whole.
All right.
yeah,
Let's do this even better.
Ohio
Let's do
State
this
has
even
never
better.
had a quarterback do good in the league. Like that.
All right.
That's not saying much.
Well,
Aaron Rodgers
well,
played at Cal.
let's do
Does
this
that
even
mean
better.
Cal's a dynamo? You know?
No, I'm just saying, like you have all these. You're talking about all these players that come in from the SEC.
NFL
A lot of these
All-Pros,
players
NFL
do get
Pro
drafted.
Bowls.
Hold up. A lot of these players do get drafted, and some of them do play, but a lot of them don't pan out eventually.
A lot of them
A
go in
lot
the
of
first
them
round,
don't pan
though.
out. Yeah, yes, going in the first round. We've seen a lot of first rounders that don't do good.
Pedigree.
But here's the thing: because we have more that are successful.
Go look at the Philadelphia Eagles defense.
The SEC has more players successful in the NFL than everybody, but because you have more guys going into the league, you're going to have more guys that don't end up being what they're supposed to be in the league.
But
Yeah, the rule of large numbers. It's correct.
No, but that goes back to my point of saying the South definitely does have the better athletes. But that don't also mean that just because they have a better athlete, that the SEC gets the nod above everybody else. We've seen it
because you're playing a harder level of competition.
No,
yes.
Just because you get ranked high to start the season off. I said this on here multiple times. Why the heck was Missouri ranked so high for this?
It was just off of last season. That's the only reason.
That's what I'm saying. Because of the preseason ranking, there's no reason.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's my rebuttal. You have a Florida and a South Carolina. Let's go back to the preseason picks that we were making. Tyler will sit there and tell you he cannot stand those Beamer boys in Columbia, South Carolina.
Not as bad as some others.
You told me that the University of Florida Gators will maybe only win 3 or 4 games this year.
I said that for sure. I was very in on that.
Even though Florida and South Carolina we thought were maybe mid, or we thought Florida was bottom tier SEC, they ended up going high and above expectations, beating a lot of teams we thought they had no business playing against. You know why? Because Florida has a lot higher level of competition on their talent roster than, let's say, a Michigan State or let's say a Louisville. The SEC has a higher level of competition and more talent.
No. Florida went above and beyond by beating other ranked SEC teams. Not because they
good teams.
They lost to Utah. Come on, bro. We gotta hold it now. You can't lose to Utah. You sit here and tell me about the hold in Florida. I'm not about to let that happen.
You talking about
that was with Mertz, right? When Mertz was still.
Because here's the thing.
But
Anthony Richardson was a bum in college before his combine workout. He beat Utah, turned around and lost to Vandy. And Vandy's in the SEC.
Well, hold up. Wait a minute now.
And Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
Thank you. That's my point.
But what about Texas A&M? Texas A&M SEC. They're one game away from playing in the SEC championship game, and they lose to Notre Dame.
Do it at home?
Huh?
If Vandy can beat Bama, then why couldn't Wisconsin do it at home?
Okay, see, now we're playing football. Because this doesn't make any sense.
Football math. Asking.
No. But see,
he did ask a question. He's not playing the football. He's asking you that.
And SEC, they did ask you that. Competition in the SEC. This is my point.
It's a question on that one.
Is different in the SEC. Okay, Bama goes on the road to Vandy. Vandy puts up 40 points on Bama and wins it. But Bama, 4 weeks beforehand, goes on the road to Wisconsin. Wisconsin was pissing down their leg about the second quarter.
That's right.
So tell me why. I would put Vandy and Wisconsin as equivalents in their respective conferences.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Big Ten kind of Big Ten has boo boo at the bottom of their
middle of the pack. Big Ten.
I don't know because I definitely wouldn't have.
He's telling the truth. He's telling the truth on that. The depth of teams. It's sorry in the Big Ten. It's sorry.
Oklahoma only power win was against Alabama.
Exactly my point. Oklahoma is in the SEC. They are more talented than other teams in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, he's telling the truth.
Hold up.
He's telling the truth.
A bottom tier SEC team that beat Bama.
Go look at it, Torres.
Bama played middle of the pack Big Ten teams. They couldn't get it done.
Hold up, because we ain't about to sit and talk about the Oklahoma that just lost the Navy. I'm not about to sit here and allow you to.
Now hold on. Hold on.
That's my point,
brother.
That is my point. That's my biggest point.
Brother.
Oklahoma looked sorry against everybody, but because the level of competition, your own coach Kirby Smart says this: you cannot overlook any game within the SEC.
I agree with you.
Because the SEC has a greater level of competition. That is why Jackson gets so frustrated when SEC gets the benefit of the doubt. It's because the SEC is just a higher level of competition that is capable of beating.
I agree.
Limb from limb, in and out, top to bottom.
Let Jackson get a word in here. Torres, let Jackson get a word in here.
But all this depth and stuff we're talking about, it's just frustrating for me when I see when something happens to an SEC team like losing to a 4-8 Kentucky, or this Vanderbilt team we're talking about lose to Georgia State, and they just get the excuse, but I don't know, it just doesn't happen in other conferences.
You think it's a double standard in a way?
It definitely, because Wisconsin was. That's right, because Wisconsin was 5-7. Wisconsin wasn't even. Come on.
Okay, so all right, so let's just go back. Let's go back a little bit. Ohio State loses a very bad unranked game. I think it had to be Pitt, it had to be Virginia Tech, it had to be somebody. It was 2017. I'm talking about 2017. They lose to an unranked team, go on to win their conference.
It was Purdue. It was Purdue.
They go on to win their conference, but they lost to an unranked team. Bama doesn't play in their conference chip. Why? Because they're undefeated all year to the last game of the season. They lost to a ranked, solid Auburn team, but they're undefeated. Okay, so what's the argument? Does Ohio State, with an unranked loss in a conference championship, make it into the playoffs over Bama?
Well, they had two losses, sadly. They had two losses.
They did have 2 losses.
They had 2 losses, but Wisconsin was undefeated, and Wisconsin only loss was the Ohio State 27-21, and they jumped Alabama, which, yes, Alabama had the 1 loss, but they lost to Auburn. But they didn't play that conference championship, and they got the nod. Similar to last year.
So Alabama was undefeated all year long. They lost their last game in a competitive one against a solid team. Who gets the nod? Who gets the benefit of the doubt? They chose Bama for a reason, and Bama went on to prove them right to win it.
But also the arguments that were made.
Another SEC team.
But the arguments that were made in that Bama Ohio State thing that year, it's almost like the opposite this year when you had SMU in Alabama this year. Like the whole point was, we thought wins had to mean more. Ohio State. I remember Kirk Herbstricht's whole argument was, the wins and losses got to matter. Like because I remember the losses Iowa that year, they got destroyed at home by Iowa. And I think it was by like 30 points or so. And then I think they lost to that Baker Mayfield Oklahoma team that played Georgia that year. They lost to them. And it was like, okay, Ohio State maybe has the conference title. They're playing really well now. They probably deserve it more. But, wins and losses have to matter. Like that Iowa loss has to matter. And then it was almost the same people making that argument, flipped it on its head and saying, well, we think Alabama's better than SMU. Yeah, they lost to Oklahoma, got beat by 3 touchdowns by a really bad Oklahoma team. But put that aside. It's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
I get what you're saying too.
And I understand what you're saying, but here's the thing: expanding to a 12-team playoff does not help your argument.
No. Hold up.
Help your argument.
Time out. I'm gonna use this as well. You remember in 2017 when UCF? You remember UCF was like, we're the national champion.
Yeah. I went to that game. I was at that game. I was with them versus Auburn. Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Auburn had beat both Alabama and Georgia that year. Granted, they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
We saw what happened in the bowl game. UCF had beat Auburn. All right? UCF was like, well, we beat the team that beat both the 2 teams that was in the national championship. Why don't we deserve to ever get a shot? Well, all right. Now we will no longer ever, with this 12-team playoff, ever have to hear about a team like UCF ever saying they never got an opportunity.
You can shut it up.
They will forever get an opportunity.
Who cares?
No.
You need to give them a voice. They need a voice.
No, Kobe, see, that's the problem. I agree. I in all honesty, like if I was an athlete.
Efficiency.
No. It's about we no longer. That's a question. Because how do we know? We could come up with hypotheticals say, UCF wouldn't beat Alabama, but you don't know. You don't know that they beat Auburn. You don't know that.
All right, so we just
and Auburn beat Alabama, beat
we just
Georgia.
saw Indiana. I mean, what do you
want?
Boise
State,
Arizona.
Yeah, you're right.
State.
We did, but we also saw Georgia. We saw Oregon. We saw all those things.
We're not going to get the Cinderella story that y'all want so bad. We're not going to see one of these big schools ever win a national championship, especially in this era. So why are we going to waste our time on it? Why are we going to give them a first-round bye if we know that they're not ever going to be capable
that's for the next
of winning the
that's for the next
championship?
segment. We're going to talk about that one. We're going to talk about that one. We're about to talk about that one.
Doing it, especially with the portal NIL.
You opened it up. We'll talk about it, and then we'll go back to the pick since we never. Everybody just want to say it. Ohio State. Are we all picking? We got Ohio State. There we go. We're off of it. Here we go. The format. Kobe brought it up. It has been talked about. I figured this would be a great time to talk about it because we've been texting about it, but we haven't really been able to really voice it with each other. This is a great time to really discuss it. And what I've been telling Torres, and I think Kobe's seen the writing on the wall. Jackson, I don't know, you've probably been seeing stuff about it, but they're probably going to end up changing how this format comes about. Yes. Because there's been a lot of people mad about why did Boise State get a bye? Why did Arizona State get a bye?
Why did Oregon have a gauntlet?
Why did they have a gauntlet? It's correct. And here we go. And right now, you're probably on an island on this one, Torres. And I'm going to see you fight your way through it, and we're going to see how it goes. But
I'll help him figure it out.
You're gonna help figure it. But
I'm about to make his head hurt.
It's gonna end up getting changed. There's been a lot of hints toward this, man, that this is gonna get changed. It's inevitable, man. And I know Torres has been a big proponent of these conference championships should matter, and I agree to a certain extent. But what we feel that they're going to end up doing is taking the top 4 teams overall, and they're going to give them those 4 buys. That's what I think they're going to be doing. Torres, go ahead. Let's get yours, and then we'll let Kobe hop on it. So why do you think that the Boise State, Arizona State, these teams like this should get these buys?
Well, for one,
where do you stand on the structure as it is now? First, I need to know.
I actually am okay with the structure the way it is right now.
Okay,
here's
that's
the reason
all I
why.
needed to know.
Hey, here's the reason why. Okay, for one, we are using this year, in which I feel like, as crazy as it may sound, this could potentially be a outlier year. Now, if this type of thing happens again next year, I can definitely see your point. But what are the absolute odds?
You're playing football math.
No. I am not. What are the absolute odds that the ACC champion is 3 losses compared to a potential Miami team that lost the final 2 games, 2 out of the final 3 at the end of the week? We almost had a Texas A&M team that had 4 losses that potentially could have been the SEC champion and could have went on and had a bye in the first round. What were the odds of that actually being able to happen? I think that's the beauty of it. It's similar to the NFL. When you win your division, you get a home playoff game. That's the purpose of winning the division. It makes the division matters. Similar to the conferences. The conferences are just like divisions in freaking college football. It makes the conferences matter. All right, one, seeding has nothing to do with the rankings. The rankings has something to do with the seedings. All right, people got mad because of what Oregon had to deal with. Well, you had to first look at Ohio State had lost to Michigan. That's why they dropped. Had they not lost to Michigan, they would have not been so far down.
Yeah.
Oregon had the worst teams by ranking on their side. All right. Now, according to you're getting mad at the seeding. You need to get mad at whoever made the rankings, because they the ones that rank Indiana that high. They the ones that rank Boise State and Arizona State and those teams that high. Those teams were not ranked that high.
Well, Boise wasn't really ranked high. They just got that bye.
They got the bye because they was the only other conference champion that had.
That's what I'm saying. But so technically, that didn't have anything to do with them, though.
So basically, you would have been okay with a 3-loss Clemson team getting a bye.
No, but what you just said was get mad at them for ranking them high when it wasn't them that ranked them high. It was because they won their conference.
Well, you got to remember, Boise State only loss was by 3
to
points
Oregon,
to the number 1 ranked team in the country. They had a case. They had a case for a bye.
No, yes, they technically did, Kobe. No. They had a little bit of a case. I thought they did.
To have a bye. And you can say, well, who else did they beat?
Notre Dame should have got it over them.
Who?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame don't get buys. They're independent. They ain't in the conference. They don't get a
That's one thing that I do kind of hate about it is because
has to change.
No, because I think that's the beauty of what helps Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the highest rated team out of the conference. And look, if they don't want to be in the conference, let them not be. If every year they have to deal with never ever having a bye. But I think after seeing what they saw this year, they probably don't care for a bye. They get their home game, and the next 2 games they play over who they play.
Yeah, they probably don't care about it. Correct. Care about it. He's probably right on that.
Actually, as we just saw, every team that had a bye lost in the first round.
Meaning they shouldn't have had a bye in the first place. That's my point.
So Georgia shouldn't have had one. Oregon shouldn't have had one.
This is my problem. You're getting mad at Arizona State and Boise, but Oregon and Georgia both lost in the first round as well. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether the good team got it or the bad team got it. They all lost.
Sorry, not Alabama. Ohio? No, sorry. Georgia, Oregon, Arizona State, Boise State. Were those the 4 best teams in the country?
No.
Besides Oregon,
they do not deserve 4 buys.
Listen. But the structure was the 4 conferences. That's why they got it. The 4 conference champions.
They got to get rid of that.
It's never been the 4 best teams.
You weren't saying that. You weren't saying that preseason though.
But we're not talking about the 4 best teams anymore. We're talking about the 12 best teams now.
Kobe. In any playoff in the history of anything, the only one that does it different is basketball. Basketball, your 4 best teams get the 1, 2, 3, 4 seeding. Besides that, in the NBA. Besides that, in the NFL, we got a 14, we got a 15-2, whatever record, 14-3 Vikings team. They got to go on the road because they didn't win their division. It's never been that way, and I like it that way because it makes your division matter. It makes your conference matter.
Okay. So since we're in the business of talking about the 4 conference champions, that if they win their division, if they win their conference, they deserve those top 4 spots, right? That's what you're telling me?
Were you saying this preseason, Cody? Were you saying this preseason?
So, hold on. So you're telling me that because those were the 4 highest ranked conference champs, they won their division, they won their region, they won whatever category they were in, they deserved the first 4 or the 4 spots with a bye. Okay, then the 4-team college football playoff should never have set the precedent that you don't have to win your conference. You don't even have to play in your conference championship to go on and be in the playoffs and win a championship. The 4-team.
That's different.
The 4-team college playoff set the precedent that, hey, if you're going to be one of the top 4 teams, you don't have to win your national championship.
That was the precedent for 4-team college football playoff.
So that's what I'm saying.
This year was the precedent for 12-team. But listen, outside of that, just because precedents are set doesn't mean they can be changed. Each year, the committee is different, man. They can change stuff up. It really is. It's not a committee. We don't have to follow. They don't have to follow precedents of people that aren't them. You know what I'm saying? They can do what they want.
That's what I'm saying. You're getting mad at the format and the structure when you should be mad at the committee and who's making these rankings.
I don't know about that. It still wouldn't change Boise State and Arizona State.
They had to rank them on the premise of, hey, the 4 highest ranked teams, they're going to be the buys. If you get rid of that structure completely, they probably rank them a little bit differently.
Okay, but see, this is my problem. Okay, not every year we're going to see the ACC look like absolute butt. We just had an undefeated ACC team last year, which would have had a bye.
ACC been a top 2 conference of the last 4 years?
No, the only time in my lifetime the ACC has been a top 2 conference was that period when Jimbo had Florida State rolling, Lamar was at Louisville, Clemson was at their peak.
That's right, but guess what?
It did a while ago. ACC has been butt for a good minute.
But
I don't think I would be surprised to see a national champion from the ACC.
I would be too.
Years, but I guess.
Would you be surprised at any conference outside of the Big Ten and SEC?
Well, I think the thing the SEC has had an advantage for in a long time. A lot of the schools in the ACC do not care to try to win the national championship. They don't. That's just not their main goal.
Exactly why Bill Belichick went to North Carolina.
The SEC has the SEC has a ton of teams.
Good point.
You have Alabama, you have Georgia, you have LSU, you have Texas and Oklahoma. You just added.
Florida wants to get in.
Florida wants to do it.
They would love to do it if they could.
So weren't you just one telling me you're upset with everybody overrating the SEC from top to bottom, but you just got done telling me the SEC has all this depth that could win a national championship?
But just because you spend in the draft picks and stuff doesn't mean I'm automatically going to say, well, no matter your record, is like you spend and you produce this much talent. Like I'm not just going to give you a free pass. Like you have to earn it on the field too.
Yes.
Which that was the thing. Everybody piling on those Indiana and SMU those first couple of days, and then like the SEC had a horrible bowl season.
They did. Everybody clapping on Indiana.
Hold
and I'm like,
on.
wait a minute.
I'm never going to give too much.
We just saw what Tennessee did. Stop
it. Bowl games ended with the
Hold on now.
Era. Let's be real. It's 2 different problems here. Bowl games ended with the BCS era. Bowl games don't mean what they were because they destroyed the bowl championship series. So, but here's the thing. 10 years ago in 2015, they had to be worried about guys just opting out simply because of they don't want to get injured or they don't want to hurt their draft stock. Now you don't even have guys opting out. You have guys off the team altogether because they're already in the transfer portal before you play the bowl game.
On top of the draft stuff, because there still are people that do the draft things.
What do you have for the bowl game that actually means something like it did 20 years ago?
The draft stuff, I just don't care. Like I admit, and I've said the SEC is the best conference that has the most talent. I just don't factor that into, like, I care about what happens on the field. Like,
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on now, but what do we always say, Kobe, Torres? What do we always say? The context matters, man. Context.
Right. Strength of schedule matters, man.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to sit here and say SEC had a poor showing of bowls when we know that a bunch of these kids are probably sitting out, they're transferring out.
Tyler, we just saw South Carolina play with a good bit of their starters and Alabama.
Carolina had everybody play.
And it was a great game. And that was a great game, but I'm not going to sit here and just
people discount Illinois because when you bring up Penn State and Oregon, Illinois was ranked when
I didn't mind Illinois. I don't think I picked them, but I didn't mind Illinois. I thought they were decent, and I enjoyed that game. I had a blast watching it because they didn't sit everybody. People freaking played.
But then also, I was in New Orleans, Louisiana for the Sugar Bowl. I go to Caesar's Palace. I look at the odds. They had Baylor favored over LSU by 3 points. LSU blew the doors off of them. So that's what I'm saying.
Got sit, didn't they?
Who?
LSU had a bunch of guys sit or something, didn't they? Like I don't know.
They blew the doors off of Baylor.
One of them's wanted for like murder or something now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, though. The middle of the pack SEC is going to be better than the middle of the pack everywhere else.
Yeah, like I'm not saying I won't say everywhere else. I mean
everywhere else.
No, it's not everywhere.
Name me a random middle of the pack Big Ten team.
Cal beat Auburn.
Nebraska.
All right, you ready?
Name me a random middle of the pack Big Ten
Rutgers,
team.
Washington, Nebraska.
Okay, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska. Does any of them beat Florida?
Actually, I think Nebraska could beat Florida.
Right now with DJ Lagway, do any of them beat Florida comfortably?
Rutgers would have to generate some type of offense.
All you're doing is trying to improve the SEC's record in hypothetical games here. Like I don't know,
true.
maybe. Like,
we can't do hypotheticals no more.
I'm asking you who's going to be favored on a neutral.
True.
Well, you can't do that. You can't do that, Kobe. That means nothing.
All right, yeah. The hypothetical stuff.
We've seen that though. Like
you can't prove it. Yeah, we can't prove it because it's hypotheticals.
Oh,
but I mean,
would be favored?
I do see
who cares who would be favored? Because you got to play the game on the field.
He sounded like his boy Saban.
He sounded
like his boy Saban now. Who would be favored? I like that.
Multiple teams that had a bye week and still were not favored and got blown out, but they had a bye week. And you mean to tell me they were one of the top 4 teams in the country?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Georgia's
That's not what the rankings mean. The rankings don't mean you're top 4 in the country. That means you're the top 4 based off of the criteria that they put in place.
Based off of the conference champions, right?
So wait a minute now. See, but this is. But see, no.
Just get rid of that.
But Kobe, this is my problem. All right, this is my problem with yours. Ohio State had just lost to Michigan. Majority of the country had wrote them off. How in the world are we going to sit here and say that, oh, man, this team that lost to Michigan, I think they still deserve to get a bye? No.
Because here's
he's telling the truth on that, too. That's a good point.
I'm basing it off of. And I'm not even trying to.
So you would have had Ohio State in your top 4? Tell the freaking truth. No, sir. Don't you do the hindsight stuff, brother.
Honestly, I think they would have been top 4 this year.
I would have had Oregon. I would have had Georgia. I would have had Notre Dame. And I probably would have put Ohio State, Texas right there.
Yeah, Ohio State. You would have probably had to put like Texas over there.
How would you put Texas up there after they just
put Indiana? I would not have put SMU.
People wouldn't have put. Yeah, he's telling the truth. People wouldn't have done SMU. They wouldn't have done. Yeah.
Hold on. Well, let's just
except Torres.
Let's just do a 14 playoff then. All right, Oregon, Georgia. All right. Who would have been Notre Dame? So you would have came down to your last one. Penn State and Texas had both lost their conference championship. Who would have been next in line?
I think Ohio State
and Texas would have been favored over Boise State, Arizona State. Don't matter if they won their
at that time. What were the standings? Because Ohio State was a 2-loss team.
That's
Penn
right.
Penn State was a 2-loss team, but in a conference championship.
Texas 2-loss played in the conference championship. I mean, it has to.
And Penn State lost a close game, so the narrative little value there would have added to it as well.
Well, Ohio State did beat Penn State, so I think that would have.
And Ohio State beat Indiana.
Yeah, but Indiana was gonna get ranked that high anyway.
Because they used to punish you if you lost conference championship games.
They did used to punish you. Hey,
Texas.
We saw that.
We know.
Because they don't punish you anymore. Why is a conference champion? Why is that the standard of picking the 4 best teams in the country?
I don't think it
doesn't matter.
It's not the 4 best teams no more. It's the 4 best conference champions.
Well, let's hear him out on this. Okay, if we're gonna take out the top 4, the ones that get a bye, what would you suggest? Just put the top 4 teams. Would you have any incentive for winning your conference, or would you just do away with that totally?
Winning your conference guarantees you a spot in the playoffs, but it doesn't guarantee you that you have a bye week in the playoffs.
I disagree with that.
What would you say about that, Jackson?
So I'm pretty much like lockstep with Kobe on this. Like I would change it to just ranking the top 4 teams based on your final rankings. But I still like the automatic bids for Kobe.
That's where it's heading.
Yeah.
I still want to see Kobe.
Torres. That's where it's heading.
Or at least reseeding the playoffs after every round.
Yeah, like I would prefer it if you just rank the top.
What? Reseeding?
I don't know about that one, Kobe. I don't know.
Jackson.
Yeah, bro. It's reseeding it after every round, Jackson. You would agree with that?
No. I didn't say I would agree with that.
No, you can't do that, Kobe. Come on now, bro. They don't do that in NBA.
Okay,
They don't do that in NFL.
They don't even do that in high school.
They don't do that.
Okay, fine.
Get your boy. Have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it.
Look, if you win the conference, you automatically make the playoffs. But the 4 highest ranked teams at the end of the year rankings, those are the 4 teams that get the 4 bye weeks because not all conferences are created equal. I could go and drop Ohio State inside of Boise State's conference. Ohio State wins it undefeated easily.
Okay.
Get your towel out. Start patting your forehead.
Okay. Yes, not all conferences create equally. But I said this. The purpose, well, this is not the main purpose, but it's one of the reasons. One of the reasons for the 12 team is, again, to finally help a G5 team. Hey, we claim we were national champions. Right? There will never ever be no more UCF. There will never ever be no more UCF.
Look at what he just said, though. He still would lock them in. He still would lock them in for a spot, just not a bye. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
No, why do they automatically deserve a bye? But we're letting them in. We're giving them a chance. So why do they deserve a bye?
No, but then we're only sitting here only respecting the Power 5 conferences. That means basically what you're saying is only the ACC.
No, you're not.
Big 12, Big 10 only should get a bye.
I don't think ACC probably would get. Did you say them? They could probably get one. I mean, but that's just life.
I'm going to go out here on the limb and say this. Next year, I think those will be the only 4 teams that get a bye. It will be an ACC, a SEC, a Big 10, and a Big 12 team. Because that's actually how it really was.
I don't even like that. I don't.
Why not?
Because if Kansas State goes and wins the Big 12, they do not deserve a bye week over Georgia that might have 2 losses and lost in the SEC championship.
Yes, they do because they got 2 losses. You over here looking at these teams based off of who they're playing. You can't do that. Wins and losses should matter. Winning your conference should matter. What are we doing?
And strength of schedule should matter.
Thank you.
Strength of schedule should matter. Strength of schedule should matter. But how can
Jackson?
Well, I was just gonna say this strength of schedule stuff. Like, what was the case in the playoff this year where it didn't matter?
Thank you. Look at Notre Dame's strength of schedule.
I don't know.
Look at Penn State.
Old too.
Well, they didn't. The SMU thing. Kobe's going to probably
the SMU thing.
Go to that.
But what?
You know what I'm saying?
The only reason Alabama was even in the conversation was because of strength of schedule.
That's it. They had 3 losses.
Okay, so let me ask you this: did Boise State have a harder strength of schedule than Tennessee?
No, they did not. No, they did not. Yes.
If you gave Tennessee Boise State schedule, is there a good chance?
Did Notre Dame?
Tennessee could
no.
Did Notre Dame?
We can't play like that because we just saw bro. You cannot do the football math thing. I'm telling you, and I'm glad the committee doesn't think this way because the reason why they understand that these teams play in whatever the respective conferences that they play in, and they can only respect off what they see off the field. I'm not about to sit here and go, well, let me play Tennessee and Boise. Let me play Boise and the SEC and see what happens. No, because obviously that's a hypothetical. I'm not.
It's a good point.
Okay, so the bottom line here is, don't tell Oregon, hey, go undefeated your first year in the Big Ten. Hey, go win the Big Ten. And you know what? As a reward, we're going to let you play Tennessee or Ohio State. Wow, guess what?
Brother, Ohio State, a team that they had just beat. And hold up, Ohio State, again, you're not listening. So technically in the rankings, those other teams on the other side that Georgia had to play were ranked higher.
They put themselves in that spot. They put themselves in that spot by how they played. Yeah, they controlled that. It was a weird year with how things fell out, but the way it fell out was because of stupid things. It was played out because Michigan beat Ohio State, Clemson, and SMU. All that kind of stuff. It was a weird year.
Listen to this, Kobe. Had Ohio State beat Michigan and play Oregon in the Big Ten championship, let's just say Oregon would have won. Oregon would have not played them again unless they played in the national championship. They would have been on the other side. But guess what? They lost to Michigan.
Ohio State dropped the ball.
can't get mad. How you gonna get mad at the committee because of what they did? They lost.
They did that. Yeah, Kobe. They did that to themselves, bro. They did. They did that to themselves.
And
They did.
you're looking at primarily on the team.
In no world does the Kansas City Chiefs go undefeated, and they have the hardest road to the championship in the playoffs.
Well,
There's just no road.
It's only the hardest.
You
It's not
might-
the hardest road.
you
According
might
to the rankings,
It is the
hard.
hardest road. Do you know how we know this? Because every team, Arizona State, were they favored in their game against Texas?
No,
Boise State, were they favored in their game against Penn State?
Penn State.
no, they was
No. Did they lose but did both of those teams, even though they won their beloved conference that we want to protect so much, even though they won it, did they still get blown out by double digits?
You know what's funny? Every number one seeded team, every team that got a bye was underdogs. Oregon was an underdog to Ohio State. Even Georgia was an underdog.
Georgia wasn't. Georgia was never.
Yes,
an
they
underdog.
was.
Georgia began as an underdog. They opened.
They opened up as an underdog.
Jackson, tell us.
I went to Caesars.
Georgia
was
opened. Hey, Kobe, opened.
But by the time the game got there and they had to step on the field, even
We
with
said opened.
Georgia is favored.
Well, and going back to your point, about the, I kind of get your argument about the Oregon-Ohio State thing, but you know what might happen on the NFC side of the bracket in the NFL this year? The Lions might have, as a number one seed, have to play a 14-win Minnesota Vikings.
Vikings, exactly.
Do you think they want to do that? Probably not.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just no. Hey, it's just how the cookie crumbles.
It's just how it falls
Has
that
Detroit
year.
played the Vikings this year?
They have.
Yes, they
And
have.
what was their record against the Vikings?
2-0, correct? Yeah.
Okay, why are the Lions scared of the
hey,
Vikings and they've already beat them twice?
Well, hey, look. The same way Oregon had to play Ohio State.
Hey, hold on now.
Do that a
Why
lot
would the
now.
Vikings be favored against Detroit?
Hold on now. Hey, who did you pick in Georgia Texas SEC championship game? Who'd you pick?
Who, me?
I'm talking to Kobe. Who did you pick in that one? Do you remember?
Texas.
Exactly.
Because you picked the same team twice and the same team 3 times. We can keep going. It's hard to beat them that many times.
It's hard to
There's
beat
always
them.
that thing that's in the back of your head, man.
Because a team on paper that is equal as far as talent-wise, on par talent-wise with you, has similar seasons as you, plays similar levels of competition as you.
The same as
you
Oregon,
line
Ohio
up
State.
against them a second time, it's going to be harder to beat them the second time.
Okay.
Whereas if Oregon and Boise State were to play twice, do you think it would be as close, or do you think Oregon will blow the doors off of them?
Well, Boise. All right. Well, you know what? All right, let's just switch this. Let's just say, okay, Oregon would have had Notre Dame scheduled. That means Oregon had to be the 2 seed. Boom. They would have had to play Notre Dame first. You still think that would have been, oh man, I'm happy to play Notre Dame on a neutral field. Because in my problem, at first I thought all the conference champions was going to get a game at home, but only the teams that played in the first round got a game at home. I didn't like that. I thought the conference champions.
That's one thing I do wish would change. I wish it would be home games.
They got to get the bowls in. The bowls are too much money.
That's true.
Yeah, they do the. Yeah, I get what you're saying though too. I like
very
that.
true. But what I'm saying is, in all honesty, I never thought. I've said it on him all the time. I said, Tyler, there's no way I see Oregon make it to the championship. I don't care how.
He did say that, and I picked him.
I definitely thought Notre Dame could have beat a team like Oregon. I definitely thought there was a lot of teams on that side. Penn State had a really competitive game against Oregon. It's not like Oregon was head and shoulder above everybody else. And again, Ohio State had lost in bad ways to make them get seated lower than how good they underperformed. So that's why they got seated as low. Similar to the teams
I
that you
would
see
say
in the NFL.
the Oregon losing to Ohio State, or Ohio State losing to Oregon was a bad loss, but yeah, the Michigan thing was like a nightmare. Like that really was.
That's what made them get seated so low.
And we often bring this up, but it's not always about how many you lose. It's about when you lose as well. It's the same reason why nobody really, batted an eye at Notre Dame, because we had all forgotten about NIU by then. We had all, if that had happened later in the season, I'm sure there would have been a little bit more talk. Yeah, there would have been a little bit more talk about it. But the fact that happened rivalry weekend, it certainly didn't help matters. It threw salt in the wound.
And my only problem is preseason rankings. People used to tell me when I was growing up,
you're speaking Jackson's language.
Yeah, but I used to tell people preseason ranking matters more than anything. Because again, now look,
It's
I'm
sad
on
but
the Notre Dame
true.
train
It
a
really
little
is.
bit, but Notre Dame, Penn State, all these teams, they get ranked
Thank
so
you.
high to
Thank
start the
you.
season, and then
Thank
when
you.
you're like, okay, well, you haven't played any ranked teams 8-9 games all the way into the schedule, but you already ranked number 5, number 4 in the country. So that's the part where I was saying it's more about how these guys are getting ranked to start the season off. Yeah, we can get mad at all these teams, but look what they're getting ranked to start the season. Look,
Yeah.
we're Michigan ranked in the top 10 to start the season already.
They're
Like,
too
what
big
are
to
we doing?
fall. They're too
So
big to fail, man.
here's my rebuttal to that. Did you think Ohio State was going to win the national championship at the beginning of the year?
I had them going
He
to it. I
going
had them
to it.
going
You
to
had
it.
them going to it.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Did they still have what did you base that off of? Their level of talent, their level of
The
roster
talent they
talent,
had. Yes, the talent they had.
the coaching
Yeah,
hires they
$23
brought
million
in,
roster.
right?
Is that what they said it was?
Yes,
Yeah.
the money, the $20 million
Okay.
roster. Yep.
Okay, great. When they lost to Michigan, did you still think Ohio State had a better chance of making it to the national championship than Boise State?
Yep, I did.
Yeah.
You know why? Because even if they lose a game, like in the Michigan fashion, that doesn't change the quality of team that Ohio State is. Because Ohio
Thank you.
State can
I
still
agree.
go and beat anybody. Ohio State is still, I would still consider Ohio State one of the 4 best teams in the country, even though one Saturday they fell short to a rival in a weird game that they had no business losing on paper.
Similar to Notre Dame, but there you go. I agree.
They lost Ohio State lost to Michigan. They shouldn't have. I still considered Ohio
Not
State
as
one of
bad
the
as
top
Notre
4.
Dame, for being
I
honest.
still considered Ohio State one of the top 4 teams in the country. I guarantee you, if they just took out the concept of seeding these teams with the premise of, okay, well, first, let's ignore everything else going on in the world. Let's go ahead and rank the 4 best conference champions. If they get rid of that idea whenever they are seeding these teams and they go, okay, no, let's rank the 4 best teams because not every conference is created equal. There's some second and third best teams in the Big Ten or SEC are going to be the number 1 team in Boise State's conference,
and the way you're talking about rankings,
Arizona
Kobe,
State's conference.
and the way you're talking about
You know
rankings
what I mean?
is based off of an eye test. I'd rather have a criteria than to go by off an eye test. That's just me.
Eye test means something to me.
Then what is the criteria for you going ahead and thinking that Ohio State's going to the Natty before the season even starts, before you even have an eye test?
You're right. That's my opinion. But guess what? Even if I was on the committee, it's not. I'm saying, oh, well, since I think they're better, I'm going to rank them higher than they should be. No. I'm still going to go based off what I see happens off the field. You losing to these teams ain't going to make me want to rank you even higher just because of how good you are. No. You still might be my pick, but you're not going to get ranked higher just because you look better, because you got better players. If you lost to bad teams, then heck, you're going to get moved down behind these other teams.
So I pulled up some receipts from a couple weeks ago where our beloved Tyler Layfield called Indiana some frauds back in November. But guess what? Everybody in the world was just excited that Indiana was undefeated. Was Indiana one of the top 5 teams in the country?
No, they never were.
They never were?
Jackson, what were you going to say?
What was that?
No,
What was that point in time where the Big Ten had 4 teams in the top 5? Or am I just misremembering?
But the wins and losses have to matter. Like
that's the
whole point of college football.
Strength of schedule has to matter. It all has to coincide. It all has to.
Also, Indiana was freaking killing teams as well.
Who were they killing?
But they were beating. But see,
Junior Varsity.
But Kobe, you can't get mad at Indiana if they're beating teams how they supposed to. How else are they supposed to win?
It's telling the truth. They were doing what they were supposed to do.
Indiana beat Nebraska 56-14. You know what? Nebraska was a 1-yard goal line stand away from beating Ohio State the very next week. So they killed teams. I'm just
some context.
They should have been in the play.
They definitely deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, do I think they're legitimate contenders? No, I do. I think they're frauds in that sense. You're correct, but
it's who else was going to have a better result? Any of those teams we argued about, whether it was Bama, Ole Miss.
In my mind, if y'all are sitting there saying Indiana should have never been a top 5 team, why were they still ranked in the top 5?
Because of the wins and losses.
So were they a top 5 team in the country?
Brother, there was only like 2 or 3 undefeated teams in the whole country. They were one of them.
Your record is
no, they lost one, right?
Not when they were ranked number 5. They were undefeated. They had lost to Ohio State, which
before
knocked
they
them out
played
of the
Ohio
top
State,
five.
they were top 5.
Yes, because they were undefeated. Yes, they were undefeated.
You are not what your record says you are. Not all records, not all conferences, not all strength of schedules are created.
Brother.
equal.
If you're undefeated in one of the top 2 conferences in the country, you're going to be ranked in the top 5. Look, if Mississippi
playing
State
the bottom teams in that conference, what are we talking about?
Exactly what happened with Texas. Exactly what happened with Texas playing the bottom teams in the SEC.
It's true. Texas did have a pretty easy schedule, Kobe, and the one team they had to beat, they didn't beat.
Any reputable power rating had Indiana in the top 10. Like SP Plus, the one I followed the most, and I think it's the most trustworthy, they had them at like number 7 at one point. So this wasn't – Indiana just lost to some good teams. And this is a byproduct of conference realignment, which I tried to warn people of for forever. And I've hated it since I was in like 8th grade when we had Nebraska, A&M, and all them moving out. Like, you're going to get to this point where you have so many teams in the conferences every single year. Like, I know Georgia played a tough schedule this year. There's going to be a time here in the next few years where we're going to be talking.
They're going to have an easier one. Kobe's going to be mad about it.
In Arkansas,
no, I'm not.
In Kentucky, and it's the same thing. It's just going to rotate.
Hey, hold on. Kobe just said he wouldn't be mad at that.
No.
Who here? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you remember in the last couple of years when Kobe would complain about UGA's cupcake schedule. Anybody
2022?
remember that?
2022
playoffs.
2022.
I remember that. I remember.
Yes, because whenever there was a 14 playoff, winning and losing games. Would Ohio State have made the playoffs?
Brother, we were already ranked. We was already ranked high from winning the national championship the year before.
Was Ohio State making the playoffs in the 14? This Ohio State team this year?
I don't think.
I don't know, man.
Not after losing the mid. Who else?
Yeah, I don't know, Jackson. I don't know if it's without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm gonna tell y'all something that y'all might not agree with, but I'm telling you, they would have ranked teams like Indiana, teams like Boise State a lot differently had it only been 4 teams. Y'all may disagree with that, but
I think I know where you're going with this. Tell me why. I know where you're going with this.
Because with it being 4 teams, a lot of teams would have been eliminated already. There would have been no chance at Tennessee. There really would have been Texas wouldn't have had much of a chance. They've been like, oh, well, you got this one loss team that only lost this to the number 1 ranked team in the country, which is Oregon. We saw Cincinnati. I granted Cincinnati was undefeated. We saw a team like Cincinnati win their conference and make the playoffs in 2021. Not saying you couldn't sit here. Then with the Heisman that Ashton Genty with the case he was making, they definitely would have put Boise State in the 14. I think they probably would have been the final 14. I think they would have. Would that only loss been to Oregon by 3 points? And they had ran through everybody else.
The only way a team like Boise State would have made the 14 playoff is if they did what Cincinnati did and go undefeated.
Cincinnati did not play a team like the number 1 ranked team.
It was already slim pickings for a G5 team to make the playoff.
The number 1
ranked team.
Kobe's right.
Undefeated to make that playoff.
And also,
brother, the number 1 ranked team. So wait a minute.
It don't matter. It don't matter. The margin of error is slim.
UCF, you just got to tell me UCF went undefeated and they claim they're national champions.
Brother, because look at everybody else that finished. Everybody else that finished that year only had 1 loss or was undefeated.
All that 1 loss would have done was been a detractor.
Yeah, right.
Brother, no, it wouldn't.
Jackson was about to agree with it.
Jackson, explain.
Remember the Cincinnati thing. Remember, they went on the road and beat a top 4 Notre Dame team. Notre Dame didn't lose the rest of the year. If Oklahoma State had remember, they were 1 yard short of beating Baylor in that Big 12 championship. They would have found a way to screw Cincinnati out of that playoff.
They would have.
I promise they would have.
They would have. But no. But if you know, that's helping my case.
Cincinnati had to be undefeated. There had to be no reasonable doubt whatsoever for one of those type of teams to make the playoffs.
You telling me
they lost? They had no unreasonable doubt. That they should have been.
And the committee always talks about how you lose. If Boise State only loss was to Oregon,
if you think the committee's going to put that much respect on Boise State, you done lost your
mind. If your only loss is to an undefeated number 1 ranked team,
it don't matter. Jackson doesn't matter. Jackson doesn't matter.
What makes it even harder is this shouldn't count, but it does for a G5 team. Cincinnati was basically like a 2-year resume because remember they went undefeated the year before and lost by 2 points to Georgia.
Yeah,
there had to be no reasonable doubt to put one of those type of teams in the playoffs. Thank you.
That's a Cincinnati. They went on the
Torres,
road.
it wasn't going to happen. We
I'm
shouldn't even be
telling you-
really
I'm
arguing it
telling
because
you.
it's not even a real thing, but it
You
wouldn't have
telling me they
happened.
would have put Penn State, Texas in with those two?
No,
They would not.
put Ohio State in. I'm telling you. Remember,
They would have put Ohio State in after losing to Michigan.
Absolutely.
They would have been the 4 teams.
Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, and probably Notre Dame.
Notre Dame would have been in before them, but okay.
Yeah, Notre Dame would have been in
So
before
those
them.
3 slots are already set up.
It's hard for me to see.
They're putting in Boise State over a Penn State, over an Ohio
Texas
State.
Texas might would have snuck in because of a conference championship loss that
they lost to the
lost in
conference
overtime.
But Texas didn't have any ranked wins. Ohio State could have said they killed Indiana at home. They were the only team in the regular season to do so. They went on the road and beat Penn State.
They barely lost to Oregon.
They lost to Oregon by less.
The final
than
seconds.
Boise
I
State
get what
lost
you're
to them.
saying.
So you would have had that.
You know what I'm saying?
They have a case. There's no way of really knowing because this is all. But
it doesn't matter who had a case.
It is.
All that mattered was Boise State had no unreasonable doubt that they should have been in that playoff like Cincinnati did.
One point I was going to make, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. When this playoff was set up, the way it was structured with the 4 automatic conference champions, was this not when Texas, Oklahoma were in the Big 12 and we had a Pac-12? Because I thought there's no way they would have set this up where you were almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
Where you could have.
That's what caught me off guard when they done away with the Pac-12.
So now that those conferences have diminished, you got to get rid of the idea.
I agree with Kobe as well. I agree with Kobe as well.
Champions. You have to get rid of it.
I agree with Kobe as well. Kobe makes a good point.
But here's the thing: look at the top. Hey, look at the top 4 in itself. Or sorry, not the top 4. Look at the top 8. Oregon and Texas. Were they a part of these same conferences last year?
No.
No, and Oregon had a bye and won that conference. Oregon would have won the Pac-12 this year. That would have been one more extra spot that would have been taken away from a Boise State. Because why? That would have meant Penn State or Ohio State would have won the Big Ten. So one of those
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that.
That's another spot. So that's 3 right there. Notre Dame, they always reward Notre Dame even if they have one loss.
Even if, yep.
Spot over Boise State. That's my point.
He's telling the truth.
Well, if you're making it in that case, that is very true.
When the committee made this, it would have had to be back then. You're right.
Based off the way the conferences are made this year, that would have hurt. I'm
you gotta get rid of the.
Sure that would have hurt Ohio State by not playing the Big Ten.
Top 4 conference champions deserve a bye. You have to.
Yeah, we do. You're right.
Conferences are
I don't think so. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. We're gonna agree to disagree on that one, Torres. So, all right, done with that. First round of NFL playoffs. Let's just go through what's happened up to this point. And we haven't really been able to talk to Jackson or Kobe about this. I want to hear some Super Bowl picks, that kind of thing. So, Torres, the Ravens, and Derrick Henry, they ended up, Jackson, they ended up taking it to Steelers, 28-14. Are you on the train of? Tomlin are you starting to kind of want some change or what's up?
I'm starting to get that way, but there was a report that came out today that there's no looking to move Tomlin or anybody.
I like Tomlin still.
I like Tomlin as well. I just think we got to do better on our coordinators. I'm hoping Arthur Smith gets this new head coaching job. Please.
Where's that going to be at? Who's hiring him as a head coach?
I think y'all have to buy into Justin Fields or getting a young quarterback for the future.
I definitely agree with you on that. I think
that change.
Is he going to be in this year's draft because they're going to be immediately taken?
I think you invest in Justin Fields. I really do.
Okay.
He can't throw the ball, brother.
But he was 5-2. But he was 5-2 as a starter. Why not get him that development in that system?
Russell Wilson helped us win even more games, buddy. Like Russell Wilson helped us win a lot of games.
So
it wasn't like he was awful.
I'm saying invest in your young guy for the future. I'm not talking about this immediate next 2 years. I'm talking future. For the Steelers, you have a Super Bowl caliber defense. You will for a very long time, and you have for a very long time. Invest and develop your guy for the future now. You have a guy like Justin Fields, a high commodity coming out of college, a high commodity coming out of high school. He started for the Bears, and I'm pretty sure at one point you were comparing him to Lamar Jackson because of what he was doing with his legs.
I don't know who was doing that. Brother,
you got to find them receipts, Kobe.
Yeah, you got to find that one.
Okay, so look at Bryce Young. Just because you get put in a bad situation, we're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, they can't do this."
No, I'm not saying that. I
Tyler
saw
Mayfield 6 months ago was saying Bryce Young is a bust and a bum and everything else. Now, look,
I want to see those receipts too. I want to see that. Pull them out.
Invested. They bought into their young guy for the future. Now the whole perspective has changed. The Steelers need to do the same.
You're throwing some serious accusations around here. Pull up them receipts, Kobe.
I sat here and watched Justin Fields.
Because Bryce Young, I've actually backed for quite some time now. I probably did at some point say this season. I hate that it's happening like that, but I don't know. I want to see those receipts. I really do. Go ahead and pull them up if you can.
I got you after the show.
Get it to me afterwards.
You know I keep them.
Okay, we'll go back and look at them because I don't remember saying the bust may have came out at some point.
You were not the most. I
don't know if I called him a bum.
You were not the most respectable. Because whenever y'all are the ones that throw in my face, context matters. You were not very respectable when you were talking about Bryce Young 6 months ago.
Okay, I want to see it.
By y'all's logic, you were not fitting that. You were not fitting your same standard.
All right. Well, you get mad about that with the Tua stuff too, but that's another thing. All right, Chargers lost to the Texans. This was like a turnover, just fiasco there. Like that balls were being tipped right to Texans. The defense looks pretty solid. C.J. Stroud was making some big plays with his feet.
Did this game change y'all's perspective of Justin Herbert?
No, I still like Herbert.
We've seen this happen the last few years, buddy.
Yeah.
The thing is, honestly, the Chargers
I still like Herbert.
A year early a little bit. Like, remember, they had to tear down this roster because of bad shape. And like
Keenan Allen and
like you trade
all them.
Like, you're relying on I like Lad McConkey. He's good, but he's the only weapon. Like
he went off. He
had a great game, but you don't have that. You really don't have I know J.K. Dobbins kind of had a bounce back year. You're getting old. They need to kind of get rid of some of these older guys on defense. Like Khalil Mack he's just not what he used to be. Joey stays hurt. Like they still lack a lot of difference makers. And I say this, I picked the Chargers to win that game because I haven't trusted the Texans pretty much all year. But they came ready to play. Their pass rush.
They did. Yes, pass rush. The DBs.
But I'm not in an alarm mode, but he played terrible yesterday. There's no.
He's had a great year overall. If you look at the grand scheme of things, he's had a great year. And then you got
yesterday than he did all season.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna look past it for right now. Broncos today lost badly to the Bills. Bills took care of business. However you want to frame that. Anybody wowed? Anybody taking away huge here? Or this is ho hum.
Nope, this is the game that I think everybody was looking forward to. Baltimore going to Buffalo. That's gonna be the game next week, man. And I mean, I just go out on the limb and say,
oh my God, I didn't know it was gonna be that. It's gonna be Lamar versus Josh. Winner gets MVP, right?
And I'm very comfortable with the Ravens winning that.
Zay Flowers gonna be back.
I'm very. They don't need Zay Flowers.
Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy, man. You're crazy. You're crazy. Dude, I did watch what Buffalo did today. You're crazy.
They don't.
Oh,
because okay, so when the Ravens when the Ravens played Kansas City last year,
Buffalo is a 1-point favorite right now, just so you know. Opening.
So when the Ravens lost to the Chiefs last year, what was the reason that the Ravens lost?
Because they wanted to throw the ball.
They started passing
80,000 times when they were number one rushing.
And they got away from what they did really well, right?
Yeah, they ran the ball. Yeah, that's right.
Well, they run the ball even better this year, and I guarantee you they're not going to turn away from giving Derrick Henry that football. The Ravens are going to win that game.
Hold up. You say that, but I've already seen them do that in a few losses this year anyway. Buffalo has looked incredible. And Josh Allen, dude, the way he's playing at home in Buffalo against Baltimore, and they look, and more than likely, I think Lamar Jackson is going to win MVP because MVP is already decided now. I think Lamar Jackson is probably going to get it. You don't think Josh Allen is going to be like, oh man, they already going to give this guy the MVP over me? Let me show you something. Because let's be honest,
let me show you how great I am.
We can't talk about mentalities here. Look, Lamar has the biggest chip on his shoulder. Lamar has more to prove than anybody in this playoff.
Oh, for sure. He got more to prove than anybody. I agree with you, but you got to remember.
Motivation to win this game than Josh Allen.
Hold up. Josh Allen, number one loss.
He wants to win it for his fiance. Come on now. What's bigger than that?
He keep losing to Patrick Mahomes. And he did lose to Joe Burrow once one year. But majority of his losses in the playoffs keeps coming to Patrick Mahomes. I truly believe Josh Allen is on a mission to play Patrick once again and to finally try to get the job done.
It's gonna be a
I don't
banger.
think he's gonna really worry too
It
much about Lamar.
is.
Because Lamar, in my opinion, did he look good yesterday? He did. But Baltimore has those lulls. And if Jackson, I know you've been watching a lot of Baltimore Ravens. What's been one of their biggest weaknesses throughout the year? Their secondary. Their secondary has been looking butt cheeks. And if Josh Allen get going like he did today,
Yeah, Allen's been playing good.
like Russell Wilson was trying to find Brandon Stevens, number 21. Like Russell Wilson was looking for him everywhere, and just,
everywhere.
like
The Baltimore secondary is their flaw.
And so, what's the Torres? You played high level football. What's the game plan when you know you're going against a high powered offense that's going to be looking to put up a lot of points through the air? What's the game plan? What do you do
Time of
offensively?
possession. Keep him
Run the dang
When you
ball.
got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, you can keep Buffalo's offense off the field.
We'll see what happens.
Wait a minute.
We saw the story before.
Wait a minute. Buffalo is a run-heavy football team as well. Their offense is not obviously the same as Baltimore, but in their stylistic, in their styles, and what they wanted to accomplish on the field, it is very similar to Baltimore.
Can Baltimore's defense, can their front seven hold up against the run? Yes, just about as good as anybody.
What about Buffalo's defense? What do y'all know about them? Are they that great?
Did Baltimore shut down Buffalo's running game?
I don't think they will this time. No, they're two different teams than Week 4. Yes, Baltimore beat them in Week 4, but there's two different teams now.
So Kobe Jackson, y'all are doing. You're taking Ravens here.
Baltimore.
All right, Torres, who are you taking?
Buffalo.
I'm gonna go Buffalo. I'll just for the sake of things, I'll go Buffalo to do 2-2.
You're crazy to think,
Let me
think I'm picking Lamar? You think I'm picking choke Lamar Jackson?
Oh, choke, not choke,
Allen is in the same boat.
Not choke Lamar Jackson.
Josh Allen is losing. Josh Allen keep losing to the second greatest quarterback of all time. Josh Allen keep losing to the second greatest quarterback of all time on the last drive, and he don't even get a chance to touch the ball.
Who did Lamar lose to last year? It's the same thing.
The only reason Lamar lost to him first, lost to him last because
Lamar legacy game coming up on Sunday.
Lamar
legacy game.
Lamar has the biggest chip on his shoulder to win this game.
It is going to be a legacy game. It really is.
I don't think his chip need to grow any bigger.
Has he had this talent of a team in the playoffs ever?
Yes.
Huh?
No. Yes. Has Lamar ever had this talented of a team?
Oh, okay.
Brother.
No.
They did acquire Derrick Henry, but last year's team was ferocious. They were the Super Bowl favorites. They were.
Hey, but hold on.
They were.
But then didn't Monken get like a game ball for having the first offense to have like what over 4,000 yards passing and 2,000 yards, something like that. This offense is pretty doggone scary this year too, my man. Kobe's got a point here, man. Kobe's got a point.
This offense is definitely scary, but last year offense was unreal.
So what made it scary?
No.
What made it scary?
Obviously, dude, they had a few bad games this year.
No, I'm saying, but what did they have that was different?
That contradicts everybody's argument that Lamar shouldn't win the MVP. Why? Because Lamar didn't put near as good of stats up last year that he's putting up this year. Well, guess what?
I agree with you.
Putting up those better stats this year.
Guess what?
With a 2,000-yard rusher behind him.
No, because the problem is, though, Kobe, is MVP is a year-to-year basis, and people, sadly, they don't know how to actually look at MVP in a standard way. Last year, Lamar Jackson had the number one team in all of the NFL last year, along with his stats. He's the best player on the number one team. Give him MVP. Now this year, he's a what? He was a 4 seed. Taking nothing away from him, his stats were better. But Josh Allen is the higher seed and is the only team to beat the number one team in the AFC and the number one team in the NFC. And he went on the road and done it both. Detroit and
did Josh Allen beat Lamar this year if we're talking about a year-to-year basis?
Yeah, Lamar did beat him. Yeah, that's right. He did beat him.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Either way, it's going to be a good game. We're going to see how this one goes.
Hey, look, the same way he beat Brock Purdy last year, and they were like, that means Brock Purdy don't deserve to win MVP now since Lamar beat him. Well, go ahead. I don't think Josh Allen is playing for MVPs. He's playing for winning more playoff games. So
Lamar is playing to get that ring, brother. He wants to go down. Because here's the thing: if Lamar gets a ring and an MVP, he's already a top 10 quarterback of all time. If he gets a ring this year with the MV3, he's a top 10 quarterback all time. Right now.
That would be what? He has 3 MVPs?
3?
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, he is. He's up.
Yeah.
He is. You're right. You're not. No lies detected.
Lamar has the most to prove in this playoff, and he has the team to do it.
Well, guess what? Guess what? I have seen him choke too many times, too much. And
It's hard to choke because
I
guess
am
what?
taking Josh Allen, who had an opportunity to finally seize the moment. Look,
Finally.
he has beat Mahomes the last 3 years in the regular season. But the last 3 years, guess who beats him in the playoffs?
And I
Patrick
can
Mahomes.
see. Yeah, if Allen
He
moves on, I
wants
can see
that
him
man.
beating the Chiefs this year.
He
I
wants
can.
that man. But in all honesty, I already know who I'm taking all the way. Ain't nobody beating that Mahomes, brother,
Kansas
until
City,
I see that clock hit
Patrick
zero.
Mahomes still gonna win it all,
I
baby.
don't see
Yeah,
nobody beating them. So
yeah.
until
Hey,
proven otherwise,
listen. Me and Torres have never agreed more on a topic. We spent years trying to find reasons to pull against Tom Brady, and he proved us wrong every time.
every
We're not
time.
making the same mistake
I
that
ain't doing
Patrick
it.
No,
I
Mahomes
you're
ain't
does.
telling
doing
the
it.
truth.
I'm
Hey,
Yeah.
look,
not doing
I
it.
would tell my cousin it was funny because
Doing
the whole playoff run yesterday, I mean last year, he picked Buffalo to beat Kansas City. I said, you crazy. Then he picked Baltimore to beat Kansas City. Then he
Have
picked
to
the
see it to
49ers
believe
to
it.
beat it. I said, you keep acting foolish like you want to put money on that. Brother, I went through this with Tom Brady. There were multiple years when they said, there's no way New England can win the Super Bowl this year. And let alone, he finds a way
Yes.
to do it. I'm not going to be
Yes.
like this again. I know what I'm
Yeah.
watching. I'm
Yes.
watching the same foolishness again.
So let me put this in perspective for you. Whenever I was young and single, I was a young guy. I had money. You know what? I would take a chance on somebody on a who am I thinking of? I would take a chance on Tom Brady losing in a Super Bowl. I would bet money on it even because I was young and dumb. Now I'm married and I have a kid and I'm paying bills and taxes. I'm not wasting my money. I would put it on Patrick Mahomes because I know there's a guarantee I can get my money back. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I ain't wasting
You're
my
telling the
money.
truth.
I'm
You'll
not
be a
making that
fool.
mistake, bro. I'm
You'll
just
be a
not
fool
gonna
to
do
bet
it.
against them. I don't care. And look, and last year they had a bad team. They had the number one
Come
drops.
on.
They led the league in drops
Come
last year.
on.
Had one of the worst offenses in the era of Andy Reid, and still won the Super Bowl.
And
Come on.
what's the blueprint every year that Patrick Mahomes has won a Super Bowl? They go and get a free agent wide receiver before the trade deadline.
They do. That's
You
true. They
remember
got
that?
DeAndre Hopkins.
You remember when they went and got Sammy Watkins? You
They
remember they
went and
went and
got
got
Sammy
Kadarius
Watkins.
Tony? You
That's
remember they
right.
went and got DeAndre Hopkins?
That's right.
Everybody says, "Oh well, the Chiefs, they're scraping by wins in November and December. They're scraping by wins. They're still coming out as the first seed
And
in
they
the
still got a
playoffs.
top
Hey,
Hmm.
five
guess what? Guess what?
defense.
Any team in the AFC that wants to get to a Super Bowl, they still got to go to the Kansas
Go
City
through them.
Invitational.
That's exactly
They
right.
still got to go through the Kansas City
You're
Invitational.
right.
Every
You're
time.
Man,
right.
give me
And look,
Patrick
you
Mahomes
think
and
I'm
them
gonna bet
boys,
against a
man.
man that ever since he has started in the NFL, started. I mean, he didn't play his first year. He played his
Yep.
second year. So he started his second
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
has been to 6 straight AFC championship games.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
bet against him if
He's
you
just
want
different.
to.
It's just
Yep.
different, man. Just
Yep.
different.
You bet against him if
Well,
you want to.
other news: Eagles have now officially beat the Packers 22-10. They're moving on. Who are they going to face? Are they going to face the winner of tonight's game?
So if Tampa wins, they face Tampa. If Washington upsets Tampa, they'll face the winner of Rams Vikings.
That's right, which
Okay.
is tomorrow. Which is tomorrow.
Okay. So we'll see how those play out. Who y'all got tonight? Commanders or Buccaneers?
I'm taking it's gonna be
I'm
that's gonna
taking
be actually a
Commanders.
realist. I'm taking
Jaden
Tampa
Daniels,
Bay.
baby.
I'm taking Tampa Bay in that one.
Give me the Buccaneers.
Commanders.
Baker once again is on a team where he's proven all the doubters wrong, and he has elite weapons. Give me Tampa. Give me
Okay.
Tampa.
Jackson?
Washington.
Same. We'll team up on that
I
one.
think it's going to be a fun game.
It's gonna be a
Jaden
fun game.
Daniels can do no wrong in my book, bro. That Joker, oh my God, I freaking love him. And
Mm.
he saved me in fantasy.
Give me Baker. He just
Tampa is banged up.
I like Baker as well, but Jaden Daniels, man, that after what he did for me this year, I can't turn my back on him. That sucker's awesome.
That's fair. That's fair.
Vikings Rams tomorrow. I'm going Vikings.
Give me the Vikings. I don't know what they're feeding Sam Darnold. I don't know where this season came from, but God dang it, give me the Vikings, dude.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna take Rams. I think this is
hold
usually
on. Let me ask y'all this: what do the Vikings do with JJ McCarthy next year?
I think you bring back Sam. I think you bring back Sam Darnold. You let
to his own. Like what?
let McCarthy.
you let McCarthy
Yeah.
develop. Just continue
Let him
to
develop. Let him
I
develop.
would bring back Darnold on a 1 year and let McCarthy develop because he's going to need a year to really get.
Well, that's if Darnold wants to take a 1 year. Darnold might choose to go elsewhere.
If you like, here's the thing. This is why I never understood like why Kirk Cousins would want to leave. Like, you have the best weapon system you could possibly ask for as a quarterback. That's why Kirk Cousins put up all those stats he did in Minnesota. Like, as a quarterback, the Vikings is a place I would want to play and stay for a long time. Like,
Well, they play indoors too.
Well, that could be more. That could be more to that. I don't know so much if whether Kurt wanted to stay. I don't think the Vikings wanted to bring him back.
Yeah, maybe
they had enough of having really.
They may have been willing to let him go.
Yeah, they had enough of Vikings having really good season and losing in the first round of the playoffs.
We do have evidence from years past of QBs having really good years or stretches, and then maybe it's just a 1 year wonder. I think Darnold's good, but I mean, remember Nick Foles had that 1 year with the Eagles where he threw 30 touchdowns, only had 2 interceptions. He did have the Super Bowl run, and he gets.
You remember Derek Carr was an All Pro at some point,
right? Yeah, Derek Carr sucks.
That's why I would, if it's possible, I would keep Darnold for 1 year. McCarthy's really young still, and he's coming off an ACL injury. And then see, hey, if next year Darnold's keeping this up,
couldn't they technically just franchise him? Franchise tag him and then he can't leave?
I don't think so because he hasn't played there long. I think you have to play there.
You got to be there like 4 years to be able to.
Okay.
All right. I think you got to be off your rookie deal to be able to franchise tag.
Okay.
Yeah, because
well, he's off of his rookie deal. It's just not. It wasn't a rookie deal with the Vikings.
JJ McCarthy?
No, Darnold.
Oh, Darnold. Okay, I thought you were talking about JJ McCarthy. I'm sorry.
No. Keeping him with a franchise, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I think Kobe let his slip by. Who he thinks to win Super Bowl. Chiefs, right? Okay. Yeah. Torres, you're still rolling with Chiefs, right? Mm-hmm. Jackson, anything different?
I'm going to go with Ravens over the Rams.
Ravens over the Rams.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I haven't picked my NFC team.
Who's the NFC champion?
It's going to be hard. It's Rams. Mm-mm. You got Rams.
Give me Detroit.
I was thinking Detroit as well.
Give me Detroit. I love the way they're built.
I like Detroit as well.
I love Dan Campbell. I love those boys.
But it just seems like so chalk. It just seems very chalky.
Well, no, I mean, what scares me is the defensive injuries like that.
They've had a ton. They've had a ton of injuries.
Yes, but they're one of those teams where they got the mentality that, hey, we might be banged up on the back end, but
next
we're
man
going
up.
to go out and handle business. Yeah. I think that goes a long way. I do. I could
been here in 24 hours.
Like those guys are bought in 100%.
Well, if they got to play Philly, that's going to be rough.
Yeah,
they got to play Philly. That's going to be rough.
Love Philly's defense. I really do. I love their freaking defense.
I love Saquon, dude. Jesus,
Saquon's good too. Yeah, I'll take Detroit coming out there, and then I guess I'll go Kansas City, and I'll go Kansas City winning. I know it's just hard. I just have to see something better. I mean, I know it's chalk, but I mean, God dog, I just can't root against the dude. Like they said, I don't know.
Yep. Not all men really do have courage.
I just don't want to be wrong. I just want to be right.
In bank account, brother.
I just want to be right. I just want to. Yeah, that's all I want to do. All right, well, y'all, we've been at it an hour and 40 minutes. I think it's time to call it quits for the night. I really do.
Crazy part is we could probably go another hour. That's the whole point.
Dead serious. We could. We could. But thank you guys. Thank you, Jackson and Kobe, for joining. Anybody have any last things they want to say here?
All right. Tied hoops, baby. Time to shoot some layups for basketball.
It's time for basketball.
All right.
Also, look, make sure if anybody's, for all the people that definitely are listening, remember UFC 311. We'll talk about that next week. Obviously, the results, but it's a really good card. I don't know if y'all watching, but we can just do the co-main and the main event.
Go ahead, pick it.
Co-main, you have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight championship. That's going to be a really good fight. I'm excited. I'm taking Umar Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, I was going to say Nurmagomedov.
Hard to go against the Nurmagomedovs, man.
That's exactly right. That's the only reason I'm picking the name. That's
going to be a great fight, man. They're both the high-level grapplers. They both are known for their cardio. We just saw Merab just run through Sean O'Malley, so that's going to be a fun fight to see him and Umar. And then now you have the main event with Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Arman is a beast. He's a monster. The man wrestling. His first ever fight at UFC was on short notice against Islam. He lost that fight, but he lost by decision when everybody was surprised on how he was able to take down Islam and out-wrestle him in a few exchanges. Now they finally got a title fight after years from that. I think it was back in 2017 or 2018. Now, years later, they both fight for the title. That's gonna be an epic fight, but it's hard for me to bet against again the Nurmagomedovs, the Eagle, MMA. I'm taking Islam Makhachev in that fight.
That's how I go with as well. Chalk.
Yeah.
Stick with it. All right. Well, thank you all out there for listening in. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. If you did that, or if you listened to it that way, or you tuned into the live stream, we appreciate all the support. Thanks again to Jackson and Kobe for joining us today. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Boom, boom.